So are you thinking about retiring in 2025? Well, Travis and Shelley are. You see, last week they were listening to our show and they just picked up the phone and said, I got to talk to that guy because January 1st is right around the corner and I want to know where my checks are going to come from. And you're going to be surprised about what we uncovered as we got into their plan this week. Good morning. What a beautiful day in the Bay. If you're just joining us for the first time, people around here, you hear the jingle, they call me the Sandman. And that's because I help my listeners sleep well at night by helping you figure things out, like where's the checks going to come from when my paycheck stops? How do I protect my accounts when they're at all-time highs? And I want to keep living the lifestyle that I'm enjoying right now. Travis and Shelley, they're 65 years old. And they have decided, or I should say young, excuse me. My wife told me this morning as we're waking up, she said, do you know the new midlife? And I said, no, honey, what is it? She's reading this new book, apparently. And she said, it's age 45 through 75. That's your midlife. Just letting you know that this morning. That was news to me. So they're midlife right now. And Shelley thinks she's going to age 95. That's what she said. So they decided that since they have 30 years, think about that, 30 years of retirement where the paychecks are going to stop, because you see Travis has decided that December 31st of 2024 is going to be his last day of work. He's already let him know he's out the door. And of course, he heard our show last week and said, well, I better make sure that I'm okay. He's done. You know what I mean? He's done. There's no way he's going back. If he has to sell his house, if he has to downgrade a little bit to pay the bills, sell some cars, what have you, he's going to do it because he's done. 65, have his Medicare going. He thinks everything's great. So that was the story. So he came in this week and we sat down and we started going through all his things, their things. Sorry, I do that all the time. My wife says, it's ours. It's not just yours. And I'm sorry. I apologize because that's right. It's a community property state. If you don't like it, leave. If you live in California, you've been together 10 plus years, it's 50-50, my friend. You can call it separate all you want, but that's the way it goes. So in any event, their property, Travis and Shelley, have accumulated a number of different things. And what I thought was fascinating about today's show is one of the questions they asked me about liability. Because this is protect your assets after all. And we dug into their policy, and you're going to be surprised about what we uncovered and what the answer is and how you want to look at things right now, because let's face it, things are changing right now in a dramatic way, particularly here in California. If you own assets like real estate, maybe you have an IRA account. I just dealt with this yesterday on another case. IRA beneficiary account. So in any event, this stuff pops up all the time. And this just happened to this family. And it was because their parents did a great job of buying a lot of real estate, putting money away in retirement accounts, and thought everything was buttoned up and tidy. And then they passed away, and now the kids are trying to figure it all out. So we're going to spend some time in court. That's what's going to happen. It's going to cost a lot of money and take a lot of time, and that's just too bad because that's the way it goes. But Travis and Shelley, let's go back to them. They're doing it right. They called us up. They're still of sound mind. They could drive themselves down here. They could walk up the stairs. They could enjoy a cup of coffee with me, which, by the way, we have really good coffee if I haven't told you that before. And we laid out their next 30 years. So today, we're going to go through that. We're going to walk through what we uncovered, how we approach this, what are some of the decisions that they are wrestling with right now. They're probably listening and they're thinking about the things we discussed, because they have to make some choices. Because this is how this works. When we all sit down together and you start to figure out, well, I could do this, or I could do that, or this might happen. Well, what do you want to happen? I would much rather have you know what could happen, and then you let us know how you want it to end up, to the best of our ability, because, of course, they change laws in this state. They change laws federally. Things happen that you don't intend to happen. Like you could get sick all of a sudden. This happens a lot. And then what? So everyone has good intentions. I understand that. But at the end of the day, it's the paperwork. It's the details. And that's important. So today, we're going to talk about the things we uncovered, some of the decisions they have to think about, and maybe you'll learn one thing that you could take with you and start to think about and make a better change for your future and your family's future. How's that sound? All right, let's get started. Kind of a sleepy week in the market. The Dow was up a little bit, 0.1%, S&P up 0.2%, NASDAQ up 0.1%. So, The international index off 3.5%, so there was some excitement there globally, and I bet you know why. And 10-year Treasury sitting pretty stable at 3.97%. Oil, big week in oil, up 9.2% in a week. Yeah. I bet you know why. Bonds down a little bit, off 1.5 for the week. Still up year to date, 4.1. So here we are, October 5th, looking at the future. We're now in the fourth quarter. You finished the third quarter. Your accounts have probably done fairly well. You may be wondering, should I do something about it? If you missed last week's show, go listen to the podcast because I talk about what you should be doing right now. But these are the things I want you to keep your eye on. The Middle East, of course, conflict in the Middle East. What did it do? It made oil prices go up a lot, 9.2% to be precise. The election, still right around the corner. Everyone's been talking about it. For the fourth quarter, I think that if we have some volatility at all in this quarter, you want to lean into that. What I mean by that is you're sitting on cash right now, or you've had some stocks run way ahead of some others. Maybe you want to diversify, rebalance. The fundamentals right now of the market, they're intact. And the Fed is doing their job. And earnings right now are looking pretty good overall, going into next year too. When we come back, we're going to talk about Travis and Shelley. They are both 65 years old. They have turned on their Medicare. And Travis is going to leave work December 31st this year. And so we went through their stuff, and they had some stuff, which we'll talk about. And we'll talk about what they need to do. And I think the biggest, most complicated thing that we're dealing with right now, which really came out of nowhere, and this is as a result of what's happening here in California. We're going to talk about that and how we approached it and how we're thinking about it right now, and hopefully not deal with all the stress that you're going to face when this happens to you, most likely. So stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman around here, and you are listening to Protect Your Assets this morning. And this week, people called me, two people in particular, Travis and Shelley, and they said, we need some protection. Something just happened. So we're going to talk about that this morning because they're going to retire in 2025. Their last day of work, Travis's last day, will be December 31st this year. And then they're done, and they want to make sure that those paychecks keep coming and they can live the life that they dreamed of. And most importantly, they want to make sure that what just happened, which we'll talk about, that they're in good shape. So before I do that, it is almost the end of the year. We're getting real close. We got about 2 months to go. You are in the fourth quarter, 3 weeks or so, right? 2 months, 3 weeks. Then it's over. And then you're going to have to pay your taxes and all that income you've made this year. And if you're like most, markets are up. Perhaps you're sitting on some realized capital gains or maybe some deferred gains that you might want to take advantage of. And so we're going to be doing what we call our Tax Smart Retirement Workshop. And what this is, it's a dinner that we put on. And this week we'll be in Lafayette at the Hideout, October 9th, Wednesday. And there's still some seats available. So you can show up, have dinner, see what we're doing to get prepared for taxes next year because they're only getting worse, not better. And there's a lot of things you can do right now to pay less in taxes. So if you want to come check that out, there's 2 ways to register. You can call 866-PROTECT right now. Call 866-PROTECT. You got Phil and Dylan back there. Say good morning because they're just sitting there, want something to do. Call them, 866-PROTECT. Or you can go to the website, libertygroupllc.com, libertygroupllc.com. Click on the events tab, and then you'll see a blue register button. You can just click that, and you can sign up and have a nice dinner with us. So we're talking about Travis and Shelley. You see, Travis and Shelley live in Danville, California, and they're both 65 years old. They've been together for a pretty long time. Travis worked for the same company for almost 30 years, and they have a couple kids, and they're ready to retire. And so they called us last week, and they said, look, we're done in January next year, and we have a host of things we'd like to come in and talk to you about. And most importantly, this thing that just came up. So let me talk about these things and how we put it together and help them figure out the next steps. So let's walk through some things they have. First of all, they're like a lot of couples in that they have their own stuff. And in this case, Shelley, she has a savings account. She has her own checking account, and then they have a joint account together. They have a Fidelity account that's a joint tenant account. They have another Fidelity account that's in a trust. Travis has a Morgan Stanley brokerage account that's just in his name. They have a transfer on death account. That's called a TOD. Then they've got a family trust account. And then, of course, Travis has his 401k at work. And then she's got an IRA and another IRA at another place. And Travis has what's called a deferred comp plan, which you may be familiar with. And what really got them to call us was the house. The house that they own is fully paid off in Danville. It's worth about $5 million. And their stuff, their liquid stuff, I just went over, it's about $7 million when you add it all up together. And they've got a couple cars, nothing real fancy, worth about $23,000. And some home possessions, about $165,000. So that's their stuff. That's what they've got. And they got 2 kids. And they're about to stop working. And so they're going to turn on Social Security. And when you look at their Social Security, which is about $97,000 a year between the 2 of them if they wait till age 68, which would be in 2 years. That's their full retirement age. These are all important things I'm throwing at you right now. And I'm FRA, look it up. So that's when they're going to take their Social Security at their FRA. And so they've got about a year and 3/4 of when they have to create a paycheck to maintain their roughly $14,000 a month that they spend on just stuff, just to live. This is net, by the way, before anything else they think about. They need $14,000 a month. So depending on where they take the income from, if it's tax-free, they don't have to worry about taxes. If they're taking it out of the IRA account or the 401k or the tax-deferred, remember I talked about a deferred comp plan? Well, guess what? That's 100% ordinary income. And so you have to look at that because depending on how much ordinary income you have, that's how much tax you're going to pay, federal and state. So they knew they were in a little bit of trouble because they don't really understand all that. Okay, so they said, okay, well, we want to look at this and just see what's the best way to do it. Very good question. Thank you for asking. But here's where they kind of had the biggest concern. It was something that came out of nowhere. It was this. They got a letter from USAA. That's who their insurance company is. And it basically said, your home is insured for this amount, and we want you to be aware of that, and we may be dropping your coverage. So this is happening across California. I see this with a lot of clients right now where they may have a $2, $3, $4, $5, $10 million piece of real estate here in California. It's fully paid off. There's no debt on it. So that's all of your skin in the game, in the ground, if you will, 100%. There's no bank standing by to absorb some of that loss if it were to burn down. And to rebuild real estate anywhere in California, except for a couple places that I'm aware of where you can get a really good deal because of sort of things that are happening out there. But besides those places, if you're talking about the Bay Area, LA, Orange County, San Diego, you're talking anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400 a foot. Write it down. I'm not kidding. Go price it and you'll see I'm right. $1,000 to $1,400 a foot. So when they say their property is worth $5 million and it's a 4,000 square foot property, well, to rebuild that property, you're looking at well over $5 million just to rebuild that property. The way it looks right now in Danville, it's a nice house. They don't need it all. But they told me straight out the gate, we want to live there. We want to die there. We've set it up so we can wheel around in the wheelchairs right from the garage, through the kitchen, into that bedroom we set up over there for the hospital bed. If it comes to, I mean, look, they thought about it. And be out in the backyard, enjoy my favorite beverage, not have to deal with, you know what I'm talking about. Is that you? Well, it's Travis. So here's what Travis said. He said, I'm only insured for $1,384,000, and my premium right now is $2,596 a year. What happens if my house burns down? Or what happens if I get dropped? Really good question. Because we talked about the fact that they had $7 million of investments, but guess how much of that is after tax? Not quite $1 million. The rest of it's in deferred stuff, which is 100% taxable ordinary income, which means that half of it belongs to Uncle Sam in the state of California. You ready to write that check? Because guess what? If your house burns down and you're unemployed, you're writing a check or you're walking away and getting paid, in this case, $1.3 million to walk away, because that's all you're insured for. Oof. It gets better. Because Travis also asked me the question of this. He was in a type of job where he's worried about liability in the future. In other words, let's say he's driving through the tunnel and some professional person out there who gets into car accidents for a living. Yeah, they're out there. They're going to pull in front of you, slam on the brakes. You're going to hit them. Probably not real hard in your mind. Airbag didn't even go off. But next thing you know, you're being sued. There's a lawyer now bugging you, and you're worried because all of your assets are on the hook. Everything you work for. So Travis says, I got about $12 million of stuff. I've got liability under this policy for $500,000. And I have an umbrella, in this case for $3 million. Am I good? Another good question. Because the umbrella policy that he has right now costs $568 a year. So he has $3 million of coverage, excess coverage above the $500,000 for $568. So the first thing I said is, Travis, look, if you're worried about liability, let's look at your stuff. Because there's some things you own that have protections, legal protections, that in and of themselves make them unattainable or unattachable if you were to lose a lawsuit. So once you're served, and now you're in the system. And in this case, lawyers are expensive. Litigation attorneys are anywhere from $350 to $650 an hour. And you're talking probably $200,000 to $250,000 in fees you're going to have to pay just to defend yourself. So Travis said, I know all that, and so I'm worried about having to write a check for that. And that's where we got into his liability policy. Now, as we were looking at his policy, we come to discover that that $3 million umbrella he has includes legal defense. So he doesn't really have $3 million. He has less. And so we decided that it might make sense to get a quote to pick up some extra insurance for the things that were keeping him up at night, which is liability. And then we started to look at the assets that he has, specifically some of the accounts, and some of the things he could do to protect those. So then, if he gets sued, they can't touch him. Now, you may want to know how you sit in this situation or how your things might look right now. Maybe you've never had a conversation like what we're having right now. Maybe no one's identified these issues. You've thought about them. You've heard these stories, but you haven't got the information, maybe even wrong information, because the case that I dealt with yesterday, dead wrong information, and they had a lawyer. So if you want to find out how to protect your assets, then you need to call this number right now, 866-PROTECT. We got Phil and Dylan back there right now. They will be more than happy to talk to you. 866-PROTECT. We'll go through what we did here for Travis and Shelley, and we'll start to show you where the soft spots are, where you're vulnerable. 866-PROTECT. Call us right now. Coming up next, it is time for our popular They Say segment, where they say, in this case, Travis, when you leave work, just roll your 401k over. Is that really a good idea, Travis? Find out when we come back. You're listening to Protect Your Assets. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander. People around here, they call me the Sandman because when stuff happens like this, I'm here. We're here to help you. We protect you. So this week, Travis and Shelley called, and they came in, and we were going through their stuff, and we realized that they had some holes and some problems, and so we got into it with them. And this one was surprising about where some of the vulnerability was in light of the fact that here in California, we're dealing with an insurance crisis. If you own real estate, you know what I'm talking about because you probably got a bill recently about your fire insurance, the insurance you've had for years, 20, 25, 30 years, you've been paying these premiums, and now all of a sudden they're going up dramatically or you're being dropped and then you're uninsured. And oh, by the way, you've probably paid off the asset and now you're sitting there going, wow, I have all this equity in the ground and all this liability if something were to happen at the property. And I don't have the cash to rebuild it because the rates to rebuild stuff right now is crazy. So last segment, we went through that. We were talking about what they could do, what they should do, how to think about it, and what their decisions are right now. There's some things they could do. So we were looking at some alternatives about some different policies that are available today and the premiums that it cost and what it will pay in a claim if it were to happen. And maybe they self-insure some of that risk. But at least they know what those numbers look like, and now they're making that decision. Are you dreaming of the perfect retired life, where your checks are going to come from? Well, if you're like Travis and Shelley, then you have tuned into the right place, because today that's what we're talking about. We went through all of their things. They have IRAs, they have checking, savings, deferred comp, 401k, life insurance, paid off house in Danville. Kids grown up out of the house. They're 65 years old. They're going to collect their Social Security when they're 67. We decided that together. And yeah, how do they maintain their $13,000, $14,000 a month to live on? Now it's time for one of our fan favorite parts of the show, our They Say segment, where we debunk common myths, half-truths, and sometimes just bad advice that they say. All right, well, here's one that Travis just said it last week. He said, I heard from somebody at work when I retire here, starting in January of next year, I should roll my 401k to an IRA. And he smiled. You can see it, right? No, Travis. Not a good idea. What do you mean? Immediately, what do you mean? So again, remember, Travis and Shelley because it's their stuff. They own it equally. They've been married all these years. He's worked for the same company over 30 years. They have 2 kids grown out of the house. House is paid off. It's about a $5 million house. They've got about $7 million in investments. But most of it's in deferred type of accounts. And one of those accounts, which is about $1 million, $929,000 to be exact, is a 401k. It's a 401k that Travis has been socking away money in all these years. It's been growing tax deferred, and this year it's done really well. In fact, it's up about 18%. And so he's wondering what he should do with that account. So the first thing that we did, and the first thing that I would recommend you do if you're thinking about this like they are, is to look at the cash flow coming into your bank when you stop. Listen to what I just said. The cash flow coming into your bank when you stop working. What am I saying? I'm saying that when you stop working, the checks are going to stop. That's obvious. But now you have all these different assets. You have some checking accounts. You have a brokerage account. You have a 401k. You have an IRA. You have a deferred comp. You have Social Security. These folks don't have any rentals, but we do rentals too. We'd like to talk about that. But they don't have that. So in this case, what we did is we mapped out for them a written, living, breathing plan that starts to look at where income comes from. Now, why should you care? Well, you should care because as you pull money out of those accounts, there's going to be taxes that may or may not have to be paid. And that's going to determine how much you have left to spend on things you want to spend it on, and how much you give to the government when you do that. And then also how much is left for your kids when you die. Does that register? Hope so. So in this case, part of Travis's concern, what was keeping him up at night was liability, because he came out of a job where going to retirement, he's still going to have some liability. And we were looking at his insurance policy in his house where he had about a $500,000 personal liability coverage. Then he had an umbrella with another $3 million. But basically he's got $12 million that's subject to liability, except, that's right, here we go. So I said, Travis, you may not want to roll that 401k. Well, why, Dave? You said that there's all these options in the IRA account and I'd only have a limited amount in the 401k. Why would I want to stay there? 401ks are protected. In California, if you were subjected to a lawsuit, Travis and Shelley, because they'll probably name you both, that $929,000 is not subject to creditors. And you don't have to pay any extra insurance to do it. So if there's a decent fund or funds in that account and it complements what you're doing in your other stuff, because that's the way we approach this, we like to look at the whole picture. And I see this a lot. I get this look on people's face. They look at us and they say, you mean you don't want all our stuff? I don't have to bring everything here? No, we just want to help you make a better decision. Huh? Really? But you don't get paid on. Well, that's right. And that's okay. We do fine. We're fine. We'll explain it to you. Sounds good, doesn't it? That's what we do. So in this case, we were saying, hey, Travis, I think you might want to keep your 401k where it is for this reason. Because as we're building your insurance policy out for you to cover your liabilities, this asset might make sense to leave over there. Okay. As we start to look at the income next year, when they're both 66 years old, immediately Shelley said, well, I heard Social Security is not going to be here anymore. Okay, so then we went through that educational process because there's a lot to know about that. And we looked at it, we mapped it out for them, and we decided after discussing it that they're going to start it at age 67, which will be in 2026. And then in 2027, when they're on the full benefit for the full year, we're talking almost $98,000. Yeah, coming from Social Security. Beautiful. And if we can then pull out, say, another $90,000 from an IRA, or from his deferred comp in this case, because the deferred comp is invested terribly. It's not really doing very well, but he's got a decent chunk in there. In fact, he's got about $1.5 million in there. Again, we're not managing that, but we can help him with that. So we're going to advise him to start taking and living on that, because that's all ordinary income, and he can control how much taxes he pays on that. You see where I'm going with this? Then in his taxable accounts, which right now are generating, say, 6% taxable interest each and every year, because that was brilliant. Well, not really. After tax, in your tax bracket, when you're fully vesting, taking all your Social Security, taking all your RMDs that are coming at age 73, that's more like a 3.2% yield in 2032. How do you know that? Well, because I'm looking at it right now. We map this out. We help you understand this. You've never heard this before, right? Well, it's time to pick up the phone, my friends. Pick up the phone and find out how you can have conversations like this. We do all the heavy lifting. Pick up the phone right now. 866-PROTECT. You can find out right now how to do this for yourself. 866-PROTECT. Call Dylan and Phil right now. They're there. 866-PROTECT. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman. And this morning you are listening to Protect Your Assets. And that's right, people call me the Sandman because we help you protect the things that you care about. In this case, Travis and Shelley, they're 65. Travis is going to be leaving work December 31st this year. Next year, they'll start drawing down on their savings accounts. They were wondering if they should take Social Security, where they should get their income from, and most importantly, how they should protect their house, because now it's paid off. It's worth about $5 million. There's no debt on it. The house is underinsured, and they're looking at $1,300 a foot to replace that house if they had to rebuild it, if it burned down in a fire. And right now with the weather this past week, it's a wake-up call, right? It's pretty hot. Things happen and things burn down. And then what? In this case, they had $1.3 million of insurance, and they were way underinsured. So we talked about that. We looked at that issue. And if you missed any of my show earlier, go back and listen to our podcast where you get your favorite podcast. Just type in Protect Your Assets, and you can look at the October 5th show and hear what we went over today that Travis and Shelley are thinking about right now as they look toward their retirement. Okay, so today we're talking about Travis and Shelley. They are 65. They are ready to retire after 30 plus years of working. Travis is done. Their kids are out of their house. Their house is paid off, and they have a lot of different accounts. We went over all those earlier, so if you missed it, go back and listen to the podcast. But the big one was the 401k, and so we covered that last. Now, before the break, I was talking about what's the one thing that you need to know about it and make sure you're protected with. Because in their case, Travis and Shelley had relied on their company's insurance for his entire working life. That's where they were getting their health care through, still are. But when he separates, given the fact he's 65 and so is she, it's over. Okay, well now what? Because health insurance and your health, even though it's great right now, and let's hope it goes on for a while and you can enjoy your retirement, that's the one thing that can change quickly and really change the rest of your life. I see it all the time. So you wake up one day, you don't know who you are, or you wake up one day, something bad happens internally, and next thing you know, you're on borrowed time. Oh, well, right now, given where we are in the year, it's October 5th. Remember, there's going to be about a month and a half before you'll have some choices to make. Talking about open enrollment. And the most important thing you could do if you're looking at Medicare right now, or if you're on Medicare right now, is to get advice. And we can help you with that. We have someone we work with who's an expert in this area, and she does a great job of staying on top of what's available out there. because I recommend that once a year when this time comes up that you examine this, because you could save a lot of money every year and actually get better coverage and better benefits than you probably have right now. But if you aren't looking at this, then this one thing could really hurt you, not only financially, but when you need it and you're going on claim and you're trying to get benefits paid and you find out they're not there and you have to deal with all that hassle. Think about all the stress you just created for your family, for your spouse who's taking care of you. I know you have questions, right? 866-PROTECT. Phil and Dylan are sitting there right now. Make that phone ring. Call them. Have them start a conversation to help you figure this out, because you want to get in front of this before you're behind it. 866-PROTECT. Pick up the phone right now. Talk to a member. My team, we're right here. We're live. 866-PROTECT. Here to help you. 866-776-8328. 866-776-8328. I'd like to give a big thanks to the Protect Your Asses team for putting together a great show today. Executive producer, network manager Kevin Renfer. And of course, the fabulous producers back there doing all this work you don't see, Kyle, Phil, and Dylan. Thanks, guys, because without my team, I'm just another pretty voice on the radio. You have been listening to the Protect Your Assets show. I am David Hollander, the Sandman. Go out and make the rest of your life the best of your life.